If you're a man listening today, yes, you're going to feel like lesser of a man. That's normal. Next time I step up my game again, which is like every 3 to 6 months, I'm going to feel like lesser of a man because I am in proportion to where I want to go next. That's the reality. But the masculine frame has the ability to accept that they are lesser of a man. That's okay. I'm not believing that I'm not a man. I'm just believing that currently I'm lesser of a man than the man that I need to be. What's the effect of that? Welcome to Indomitable, a podcast designed for those of you who hunger to develop an unbreakable relationship with your spirit, which is the Spirit of God within us. I'm Emmanuel, and I'll be delivering truth and strategy which will allow you to connect the dots between God, your mind, body, and the powerful universe that you created. It's time to pick up our swords and fight. Welcome back to episode 10 of the Indomitable podcast, where I'm going to be talking about what's the best way to take a marriage that's in a place of uncertainty to a place of certainty and how not to do that. I'd like to start off by prefacing to a verse in 1 Corinthians that says God is a God of order, okay? So if you want to succeed in any given area of your life, in this case, we're talking about a marriage, then you have to understand what's the process of order. You see, most people are doing things out of order, and that is why there is disorder in their life. So the name of the game is understand what is the order, what is the process, right? For every math problem that you want to solve, there is typically a process of getting to that. Let's talk about a marriage, right? Very often I get phone calls from women. I just got off the phone call just a few minutes ago with a young 33-year-old woman whose marriage is in crumbles, right? And the problem with the woman reaching out is that most times when they do, the man doesn't believe that he needs to change, or he's resisting change. Now, what's the problem with this? And for the record, in some cases it does work, and we'll talk under in what scenarios it does work when I'm getting a phone call from the wife. But the reason why that doesn't work is because men always go first, okay? When it comes to making something better, typically when something is in a state of uncertainty, specifically in a marriage, the man always goes first. If somebody breaks into attack, the wife doesn't jump out of her couch to defend. No, it's the man, right? If there isn't food to eat, then the man is supposed to go out and hunt, okay? So what happens here with most of the phone calls that I'm getting is women are calling, which also tells me that the man doesn't want to make that improvement for himself. And this is the reason why, fundamentally, why the marriage is broken to begin with. You see, if we as men understand this process of order that will lead to success within a marriage, then it becomes very easy to have success within a marriage. The process of order is that the man goes first. A man understands that it's his job to lead, and that the reason why it's his job to lead is because, one, it's the moral and righteous thing to do, but number two, because that's what brings a sense of peace, security, and certainty to his woman's heart. Right? If somebody breaks into your home, assuming that you're the woman listening here today, if somebody breaks in and your man doesn't stand up and fend for your family, then moving forward after that, you will no longer trust your husband. Now, you will love your husband, but love in itself cannot sustain a marriage, right? There's got to be a balance in between the masculine and the feminine. So when the masculine frame isn't doing what the masculine frame should do, which is to consistently improve himself, then as a byproduct, the woman is going to be full of fear. And that's now going to force her to become defensive or over defensive, which also means she's now having to step into her masculine and step a little bit further out of her feminine nature, right? That's a problem. It's not going to work because now you are going to start demanding that your husband change in order to bring order back to your environment. And now he's going to feel like lesser of a man. And even though, yes, he is lesser of a man, he's not going to want to admit that he's lesser of a man, because what man wants to admit that he's lesser of a man? It's happened to me so many times. As a matter of fact, every time that I'm about to step up my game, either as a husband, as a father, as a leader, okay, in my finances, in my fitness, it doesn't matter. Every time that I'm about to step up my game, I'm going to feel like I'm lesser of a man. Yes, of course I am, because in proximity to where I want to go next, I am lesser of a man. But what makes me a real man, that's going to lead me to become that man, is that I'm not arrogant and that I understand the name of growth. I understand the process of growth. I understand that I have to evolve more in order to lead to this next level of success, right? So when my marriage is struggling, what's the first thing that I do? I go work on myself. Why? Because that's what the masculine frame truly does. If you feel like lesser of a man, it doesn't mean that you're not a man. It just means that you need to step up to the next version of man. And that's a never-ending process. If you listen to a podcast that I do 12 months from today, as a matter of fact, 1 month from today, you're going to sense a different level of masculinity, right? Why? Because I'm not arrogant, because I'm not pretending to have it all figured out. The day that you as a man believe that you don't need change and that your wife is to blame for why your marriage is in crumbles is the day that you die to your potential. And that's the day that you are now allowing disease to enter your wife's thoughts. What are her thoughts? Your wife's beliefs about herself, your wife's beliefs about you, your wife's beliefs about the success of your future. You must go first as a man if you want your marriage to consistently evolve. Now, back to what I was saying, I just got a phone call a little while ago, and I spent an hour and a half on that phone call, right, explaining all of this and in more detail to this woman, right? But she's struggling. She's struggling to understand that the only way that her husband is going to see the value in her is if she starts to see more of the value in herself. And I'm telling her, if you stand the chance of inspiring a change within your man, you're going to have to go work on yourself, because we change for the things that we value. He doesn't see enough value in you, therefore he doesn't want to change. But he doesn't want to change because he has a fixed mindset to begin with. That's why as women, when you're dating, the first question that you want to ask a man is, do you have a growth mindset and do you have the proof to prove that? Because if they don't, your marriage is going to end like 80 to 90% of marriages. Broke and broken. It's not going to work. I talked about this in episode 6, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6, on the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset. Right? It's the number one quality that a man needs in order to lead a relationship to success. What is success? Where there's everlasting passion, everlasting excitement, joy, where there's support for one another, where one falls, the other one picks them up. Meanwhile, the one that fell is not resisting the pickup, right? This poor young lady who's got beautiful intentions and a good heart, she's expressing to me how it's been a couple of years of her trying to pick him up, her trying to, take him out for dinner, to do this for him, to do that for her. It's like, it's not going to work because he has a fixed mindset. After an hour and a half of talking to this girl on the phone, it was still a let me think about it. Why? Because a woman's not supposed to be doing that. If your husband can't go out and hunt for food, and then I try to convince you that you got to go do it, well, you're going to have to think about it, because that's not what you're designed to do, to go hunt, unless you have trained yourself to hunt, which a woman who has trained herself to hunt, that's going to take a different caliber of man, extremely masculine man, right? So if you want to take a marriage from a place of uncertainty to certainty, the man must go first, because that's the process of order. Not because Emmanuel said, but because that's the process of order, right? You don't just get green grass. No, you don't just expect green grass. No, you put good seed into good ground, then you water it. There's got to be a certain temperature, and you do it with consistency, and then you get the grass. Everything is order in life, right? So for that marriage that I just spoke about right now, it's going to continue to be the exact same thing because the woman wasn't capable of doing what I suggested. It's go work on yourself, okay? And if you work on yourself, then he's going to see the value in you, and then he's going to want to have a desire to change, right? We've changed for the things and the people that we value. I bet you if her husband, which sadly is 37 years old and still resisting change, still depressed, right? Then I bet you if he had a son and I put a gun to his son's head and I said, you evolve or he dies, he's going to change. He's not going to argue with it. He's going to go seek the best guidance in the world to evolve as fast as he can because he values that child. You see, this goes to prove that if you go to work on yourself as women, then maybe he's going to want to change, right? Because even at that, some men are not willing to make that improvement because their beliefs about themselves are so deep rooted. With this scenario that I was talking to with this lady, well, he witnessed his mother cheat on his father. Right? His mother mistreated him. Of course, he has beliefs about women. He has beliefs about himself as a man. Right? He witnessed his father get cheated on. Well, his belief about his father is that his father is lesser than. So that's going to be his belief about himself. And his belief about women, well, he's going to make manifest that quality of woman. He's destroying a good quality woman that he's with in order to match his belief about what women truly are, right? So in some cases, like I told her, he might not change, but that's okay. And she's like, but I want to do this for both of us. It's almost like if both of us don't do this, then I don't want to do this. Then you're going to be stuck in this situation for the rest of your life, right? You have to go work on yourself. It's like I told her, even if he dies today, let's just say that he's irrelevant to the situation, you still got to go work on yourself. Right? She went out of one relationship. She did a little bit of counseling, which means she never truly healed because I'm seeing the manifestation there again. It's like you got to go work on yourself, right? But the point of this is that if you want to have a successful marriage, men, you must understand this process of order. Maybe you're listening here today as a man and your relationship is struggling, or maybe you're just not in a relationship because you've already failed so many times in a relationship. It has nothing to do with your potential. It has everything to do with your beliefs. My job is to help you reprogram your belief system. And you got to have that one belief leading. It's the master belief that must lead a man who wants to have a successful marriage. And that belief says, I am the man. It is my job to consistently evolve in order to cause, or in order to have the effect in a woman through a cause, the cause being me, the effect means that she feels safe. Like, think about it. If you're a man and you're constantly evolving, constantly improving, right? You get into an argument with your wife and you say, sweetheart, let's sit down and talk about this. Let me see. Let me go ahead and reflect and let me see what I could have done differently. What could I have expressed differently, right? Imagine if he did that. Like, how do you think your wife would feel? I mean, your wife would see you like a god. It's like, wow, like this man's leading. And then she's going to reciprocate with you. Right? Because that's the law of reciprocation, right? We do what people do for us in most cases, right? So she's going to want to look within. She's going to want to make those improvements, right? Because you're being a man. That's the number one belief that's got to govern your mind, that I am the man, I'm the leader, and this also means that I need to prioritize growth. You need to be growing faster than your wife. When I have a woman that's calling me to let me know that her marriage is broken, 90% of the time, I already know the man don't want to change. 10% of the time, she's just doing the research. The man's ready for change and he's going to follow through. But 90% of the time, I already know he's resisting change. Okay? And that's why there's disorder in that marriage. There wouldn't be disorder in the marriage if the man was working on himself diligently. But one of the common denominators with these 90% of phone calls where it's the woman calling me, she's the one that's into growth. She'll say it herself. I'm always reading books. I'm always trying to work on myself. I journal, I meditate, I do this and that. I'm working on my business, right? And then we talk about the other one. He doesn't do any of that. That's a problem, right? She's going to exceed his level of growth, which means that She's going to have to step more into her masculine. Now she's doing the man's job, right? With this girl that I was talking to, my heart goes out to her. It's, oh man, I need to see how I can come up for the money for both of us to go in. I'm like, why are you having to do that? He's the man. You see what I mean? So she's contributing to the lack of his growth in wanting to continue doing everything for him. Now, I'm not against a woman helping a man when the man's actually doing something great. You see, me and my wife, we were broke for a few years and she was being supportive. But guess what? I was doing something to evolve. I was working on developing a skill. I was becoming a more valuable man to lead me to the man that I am today. You see, but if you're just helping and helping and helping your husband, but your husband's not making an intent to help himself, that's a problem. You're going to take the role of the man and there's going to be friction. It ain't going to work. So if you're a man listening today, yes, you're going to feel like lesser of a man. That's normal. Next time I step up my game again, which is like every 3 to 6 months, I'm going to feel like lesser of a man because I am in proportion to where I want to go next. That's the reality. But the masculine frame has the ability to accept that they are lesser of a man. That's okay. I'm not believing that I'm not a man. I'm just believing that currently I'm lesser of a man than the man that I need to be. What's the effect of that? I go to work on myself to become that version. And then the new reality makes manifest, right? That's the game of life, men. If you're working on yourself, your marriage is going to continuously succeed. Your parenting, your children are going to succeed. If I think about this man who is in relationship with this woman that just called me, okay, I already know that his dad didn't have a growth mindset. Okay, so he taught him how not to develop. That's a problem. So my question for you, men, is are you going to pick up your sword? You see that sword behind me? That sword symbolizes once you pick up your sword, you're saying that you're accepting your responsibility, your calling on your life to break generational patterns, to become way better than your father. Does that mean that your father wasn't any good? No, it just means that he wasn't good enough. How do I know? Because I can see it in your present circumstances. And that's hard to admit for some men. But you got to be a man. You got to admit. I had to admit it. My father wasn't anywhere near to being the man that could have led me to not make all the stupid mistakes that I made in my life, for the love of God. Right? I got a girl pregnant at the age of 19 without even developing myself. What am I doing? I started doing drugs, selling drugs, got married, I cheated on that wife. Like, why? Because I never had an example of a father. But what caused a shift in me? I accepted that I'm not enough of a man. And that's going to hurt, but that's okay. You got to take the hits. You got to take the pain. On the other side of that pain is growth. Right? That's step number one. I'm not mad at you. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you, I used to be a piece of shit. I'm telling you, right? But I had to admit that. That's okay. Okay? That's step number one. Then number two, who do I know that is a good quality man? Right? Start following people. Follow people who are proving to succeed in life, right? Who have successful marriages, who are successful parents, who have successful businesses, right? Who have good habits, who aren't arrogant, right? Then you start becoming like that man. But if you can't do what the majority of men can't even do, we can't even get past step one. This man that this woman is in relationship with, we can't even get him past step one. That's admitting that you're not enough. And then number two, that you have the potential to become enough. And then number three, you go work on becoming that through exceptional leadership. That's all it is. You see? And it's not just one and two, it's still number three. You see, of the 40% of men who will come to realize that they need to improve and that yes, in fact, they could, 5% are actually going to succeed with that because they can't get number three through their head. Number three is appoint good quality leadership. That's number three. They're trying to figure it on their own. You ain't going to do it. because it's you consciously trying to change your subconscious patterns. It ain't gonna work. Get in relationship with a good quality man. It don't matter what you have to pay. This woman's talking about how I don't know if this man's gonna want to pay a $2,000 workshop. But you just told me you guys are going on a vacation. I'm assuming that thing's costing you about 4 G's at least. What's that gonna do? Nothing. The things you value today will determine the value of your life tomorrow. And if you value, as a man, it's a part of the masculine frame. You value yourself more than you value money. If you value yourself more than you value money, then you're going to put the money here and you're going to grow. And so is your wife's interest for you is going to grow. Her sense of security is going to grow. Your children are going to grow. Everything's going to grow. Okay? And women, if you're in a relationship with a man who doesn't want to improve, go work on yourself. I'm not saying abandon him. I'm not saying label him as narcissistic, right? That's what the system does. Oh, narcissistic men can't change. That's bullshit. Like, God did not give us a mind that doesn't have the ability to evolve. We've seen atheists go to believers, to pastors. I've seen meth addicts go to growth addicts, right? I've seen gay to straight, straight to gay. I mean, I've seen everything. This means that the mind has the capacity to change. So we don't need to label our husbands as narcissistic. That's a label created by society. Everybody has the ability to change. Intuitively, every single man and woman has the desire to evolve. But yes, 90% of men and women are disconnected from that desire to evolve. And if you want to connect them to that, then you need to connect yourself to that. Go work on yourself, and then people are going to see the value in you. This is why when you say, hey, I'm done, I'm out of here, wait, like, okay, I'll change. Right, because you're doing something that a valuable woman would do. She doesn't tolerate. But don't stop there. It's like, okay, great. I see you want to make improvements. What's going to be the plan of action? What are we going to do to improve you? Right? I see a lot of women make this mistake. I'm out of here if you don't change. Okay, fine, I'll change. Okay, thank you. And then 1 week later, it's the exact same thing. It's like, no, what's the plan of action for you to change? And then make sure that they start that plan of action. Make sure you see consistent growth. And then you get back into that relationship. That's the way it works. Right? But this is a problem. We need to change this, men. Your wife shouldn't be calling me to improve herself because you don't, in order to save this marriage. It ain't going to work. This poor woman didn't follow through with the service because she doesn't feel strong enough, because she shouldn't be doing that. It should be the man. Like, what's your perception of that man that I just described? Not much. If that's you, let that hurt, but let it piss you off and say, he's right, I'm going to go work on myself. If not for you, for your children, for your children's children. You got to have a strong why, or you're not going to be able to make the change. And women, don't settle for lesser. If you don't want to change after the fact that you're making changes, believe me, there's going to be another man who did. Right? My wife hired me before we were anything in 2018. She was chasing after a man who had a fixed mindset. She hired me. We fixed her mind. What happened? She got into a relationship with a man who has a growth mindset. Now she's happy. Raising kids. Doesn't even have to work. Doesn't have to work for money. She's doing another type of work that's harder than my work, which is raising children, right? But she's living the life. She's doing what a woman should do. Raise children. And then after those children are somewhat grown up, 4 or 5, then she joins her man on their business venture, or she goes off and does hers. That's what life truly is, right? So, but you got to work on yourself, and you can't wait until your man decides to work on himself, or you're going to be waiting forever. It's like if your child doesn't want to improve himself and you're waiting to improve as a parent until he wants to improve as a son. You're not going to go anywhere. There's order, right? And if you are watching this as a man who understands that growth is a thing, right? But maybe you're just down and a little guilty, shameful, right? But you're aware that you're the one that needs to improve, right? Then this is a formal invite to you to reach out to us and let us help you with that. We got so many options for you guys, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Remember that number 3 is don't figure it out on your own. Hire somebody. You're only going to live about 80 to 100 years. You're already 30, 40, 50. Like, let's go. There's got to be a sense of urgency to evolve. Right? Even Jesus Christ was led to the cross by the Holy Spirit within him, by God, and by another man who helped him carry that cross. Then who are we to believe that, who are we as men to believe that we don't need another man to help us? That's called arrogance. This is why only 3%, 3 to 5% of men will succeed in life. Because one, they don't believe that they need to grow. Number two, even if they did believe, their self-belief is so darn low, right? And number three, because they're not understanding this concept of leadership. It's very simple. It's not that big of a deal. So, if you're a woman and you want to inspire change within your man, go to work on yourself. Don't wait on him. All the fears of what's going to happen, dismiss them, okay? And replace them with, if I work on myself, so must the manifestations of my life make present. If you're a man and you don't believe that you need change, then I hope this pisses you off and that you decide to go work on yourself. Or if you're a man who's struggling and believes you need change, then reach out. Or maybe you're a man or a woman not in a relationship because you've had many broken relationships. Go to work on yourself, because that's the way that you can make manifest of a better quality of relationship. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions for us, drop a comment below, send us an email, send us a DM. If you know of somebody who's struggling in their relationship, send this to them, share it with as many people as you can, because that's contribution, which is the need of the Spirit. It's a commandment that if we obey, we will be spiritually in tune. We will be mentally in tune with our spirit, which means that life will unfold for us naturally. And if you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe. And lastly, and most importantly, if there's anything that you want us to talk about, send us an email, send us a message, and we will be more than happy to talk on whatever it is that you want, because this is about you, not about me. And when you make things about other people, then God will make things about you. God bless. Thank you. Welcome back to episode 10 of the Indomitable podcast, where I'm going to be talking about what the problem is. No, not that. Welcome back to episode 10 of the Indomitable podcast. All right. Welcome back to episode 10 of the Indomitable podcast. All right. Here we go. Welcome back to episode 10 of the Indomitable podcast, where I'm going to be talking about how to improve a marriage who's in a place of uncertainty and how not to improve a marriage that's in a place of uncertainty. I want to start off this episode by prefacing to his, when it says God is a God of order, is that a verse? Yeah. I'm going to wrap this up quick, baby.